All right, so truck's out a little bit ways today. I am going to talk about how we build this sunscreen. So you can see it from here, it's fully extended. It's about 9.8 feet by about 13 feet, I believe, in total area underneath there. You can see the rooftop camper. I've got videos on how to build that. You can see that right there. That's a wedge top camper, so the hinge is on this side and the wedge is up, and you sleep up in the top. But let's go look at this sunscreen. So the sunscreen, just a flat tarp, has using some carabiners for a quick connect to the truck, and some tie downs, and I have some carabiners for the tie downs on this side. The other side's just held up by some poles and two tie downs at kind of 90 degrees. So I'm 6'4", I can easily walk under this, so you can see from this side. So there it is from the back side of the truck. And again, if it's raining, I may have to get a pole to prop up the middle just so the rain kind of goes up the sides. And if it's raining real hard, I may have to lower this end so that the rain kind of flows away from the truck. But it'll serve the purpose mostly for a sunscreen. So on our upcoming trip to the Utah Canyon area, I would like to be able to get out of the sun. And so my family can now have a spot to sit, and we can enjoy ourselves under this canopy, so we're kind of out of the sun a little bit. Anyway, so here's the ingredients for today's project. On the left-hand side, I bought a tarp. So it's a tarp that would normally cover hammock. So it's just a square tarp. It's kind of that size, 3 meters by 4.5 meters. And that tarp came with the tarp itself, some stakes, some cordage, and the bag for the stakes and the cordage. So that's one ingredient. Another ingredient are these extendable poles. So I bought these online too. And so I'm gonna hold the tarp up on one side with those. And then my goal is with this hardware. So I got some T-nuts. Had one out, here's one. So these little T-nuts, these actually, you can insert them kind of straight into the channel of the 80-20 slot. So I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But then I have some eye bolts and some washers and a lock washer. So, and the eye bolt came with a nut on the end. So my plan is to use that hardware right there, and I'm going to connect the eye bolts up here. So probably 2 on this side, 2 on the driver's side, and probably 2 on the passenger side. Now these are a bit long. I may actually need to use my cutting disc and chop these down a little bit. I'll figure out the size later on. But for tonight, I want to just do kind of proof of concept type thing. We're going to try to get this up here, and I'm going to hang the tarp off of this backside and extend it out this way, so we have like a covered area in the back of the truck. So that's the goal for the night. Quick and easy, and see how that goes. Just a little tip on the 80-20 rails. So these 80-20 rails, they have a channel in them, and you can see, this channel looks like the top of a T. So the nuts that go inside here, they call them kind of T-nuts. So there's 2 different types of T-nuts. This type of T-nut, you have to have an open end to slide it in. So on this particular case, the open end is accessible. I can slide that T-nut in there. But if you have already something that's built, like for example here, where you have the ends all kind of capped off, then you want to be able to put T-nuts in there sometimes without having to remove these corner gussets. So that's what this kind of T-nut is for. So this kind of T-nut, you can slide it in obviously from the open end. That does work. But this kind of T-nut, you can also drop it into the channel, and then it'll fit in there just like that. So that's the difference between those 2 types of T-nuts. This kind of T-nut, you can drop it in. This one, you need an open end to be able to get it. All right, so last time we talked about these eye bolts, that they're a little bit long. I'm gonna have to trim them up. So what I'm gonna do is, so I already measured 1. I got a mark on there. I'm gonna chop that off. So I need about 1 inch to 3/4 of an inch. So what I'm gonna use is use the cutoff tool, cut the end off, and then I can run that nut down there just to fix the threads and try it out. Once I figure out the exact length I need, then I will Repeat that process on the rest of these. So let's do one together. Let's see where we're at here. So cut off tool. Let's see if I can get this. So there's my line. Here we go. It's got a little bit warm, not bad though. Let's go ahead and run that thread, that bolt down there. And while I have a file out here, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of take that little burr out. You can see a little burr there. It's a little hot still. Probably what I'll end up doing is I'll get the actual sanding wheel, this grinder, and try it then. Let me try this out on the truck, see how this size works. So I'm going to have a lock washer and a regular washer, and then what I'm going to do is thread this in, and then we'll be able to tighten this down, and let's see where that leaves us. So again, we're going to just test fit it test fit into this one. All right, so that's pretty good right there. So I don't have a whole bunch hanging out. I do have just a little bit hanging out. So I'm going to make them all this long. So just repeat that process on the rest of them, and then we'll come back after that. All right, so use the cutoff tool to chop them to size, and then I just use the angle grinder with the flap disc on it to clean up the ends, so you can see, you know, all the ends are kind of nice and cleaned. And then I ran the nut down just to make sure that all the threads were okay. So at this point, I want to paint these black so that I don't have any bright and shiny things hanging off the side. And we'll do that next. So before I paint them, I'm not sure if this paint will actually stick, but this is the paint I'm using. It's the same paint I used for the brackets for the solar panel. And then I did clean them with denatured alcohol just to remove any of the grease or anything that might be on there. So again, not sure if this paint will actually stick or not, but we will give it a try. And then if I have to repaint them at some point, I may scuff them up or something like that. Looking around for a hanger. I don't see any place to hang them, so I'll just do them one side at a time. All right, we'll give that side a couple minutes to dry. I'll flip them. We'll do the other side. Okay, so we got all the hardware kind of painted. It's still a little tacky, but I just kind of sitting on this tray. I'm just going to start to use them, even though I might scrape off some paint. I have these cheapo carabiners. All right, not really meant to hold weight, but they will be able to act as a quick attach detach for the tarp. I've got the tarp kind of just laying on the ground here, and then I have the two poles. And then I guess the tarp came with, again, these stakes and tie down lines. So first step is I'm going to go ahead and put these in where I kind of think they're going to go. and we'll check back in after we get done with that. All right, so I've got this eye bolt attached here on this side. I left it loose. I got a couple inches to slide. I'm not sure if that adjustment is going to be critical or not, but have it for now. Once I figure out exactly where I want it, I will tighten that one down. I did the same thing on the other side. On the tarp, you can see this is the end of the tarp that's not as wide. That's the long end going that way. And that's the center strap. On the ones that are just outside the center, I attached a carabiner on this side. And so I should be able to take this carabiner, attach it to that end point right there. If I come around to the other side, I'm thinking that the distance, if I measure it right, this, then should come around and I should be able to, so if I did the distance right, this should be able to come around and we should be able to strap in on this side. And I want it kind of taut because that's going to keep the tarp up there. So that's the quick attach to the truck part. And I think distance wise, I'm looking pretty good. It does look a little low on this side. Oh, it's just caught under. It's no big deal. We'll just pull that up. And my plan is to maybe slide these out just to where I need them to get that tight, right? So I'm gonna keep this tight. I'll also probably put an eye bolt maybe in the middle if I need it. We'll see in a little bit. I packed away everything like I talked about. I braided up those tie downs so that they don't get all tangled up. They're all in the bag. I have a deck system. I'm gonna have a stopwatch going. Let's see how long it takes me to deploy this to the back side here. So start the watch now. So everything's in here. About 10 seconds just to get it out. Talk a little bit as I go, but let's try to get a real time here. So there's the tarp. Here is all of the stakes and the tie downs that go with them. I'm going to go ahead and put the tie downs and stakes kind of where I think I know they're going to go. So there's going to be one over here on that side with a stake. There'll be one over here on this side with a stake. There'll be two tie downs out here somewhere, kind of right off the truck, somewhere out here. I don't know where those will be yet. And then two tie downs off over on that side. So we're about a minute right now. Here's the tarp. I can see my red lanyards, or my red my clips here. I'm going to lower this, it'll be easier, out of the way. Should be able to clip it on this side. Clip it on the other side. It's already kind of tight. Grab the poles out of the back here. And bring those down. One's up there. All right, so here's my one side. Now, if I did this right, I should be able to take and it'll unwind just like that, and it should be about half the distance. So that's perfect. There's one. Same thing on the other side. I grab the piece of plastic, pull it, it comes out, and then it's about halfway down. There's the other side. A little bit windy right now, but it's not going to go far. Just stake these where I think they're going to kind of hold up the pole for me. And again, this pole has to be adjusted in height So right now these stakes are just kind of going on the ground, just mostly just to kind of keep it in place. Do the same thing on the other side. My tie downs on my pole. Again, if these are, I should be able to pull the plastic, just come out, put it on the top, pull the plastic, those knots should work themselves out. Go. And once again, I can put the initial positions for the stakes. Don't know where they're at, but the tie downs are about halfway. And I'm just setting these tie downs at 90-degree angles to each other, so we got a little tension on the poles so they stand upright. All right, at this point, poles are in, not the height I want. So now I can come back through and just kind of loosen up these things. Give myself a little bit more height here. That's probably a good height. Same thing on this side. Just slide these down a little bit, we'll loosen them. Pole height. I think I got the height good. Now we're just adjusting for tension on these tie downs now and make it nice and taut. Okay, so the main two poles are up. I have two more tie downs, one for each side. And again, the way I've set this up is those knots, I should be able to pull the plastic piece and it'll come out, and then I'll have the halves. And then the tie down's about halfway mark. And these side ones are pretty easy, you don't have to really adjust them. Just make them tight and pin them like that. Same thing on the other side. Oh, I did get a little knot on this one. There it comes. All right, latch it on. Again, I'm using super cheap carabiners, but they're good for this purpose. They're not meant for climbing or holding a bunch of weight, but they're not really supporting much here. And the time is 6 minutes and 28 seconds. 6:28. I've got this kind of built and tied down. Again, probably will end up maybe with something here. We'll see. Might just go camping first with it and see if it's a problem. I might be able to pull it tighter and get a little bit out, but not much more pulling is gonna get that middle to come up. All right, but it's probably good enough as long as it doesn't rain. And if it's raining just a little bit, you know, I'm tall enough that I can just prop this up and get the rain to come out. But 6.5 minutes to deploy from being packed inside the truck to fully deployed. 6.5 minutes. Here's that same tarp, but now deployed off to the side of the truck. So again, you can see from here the quick connects onto the truck. They're right there. I've got tie downs pulling it this way, tie down the other side. Just the way I parked, I don't have a tie down on the other side because it would end up on the concrete up there, but you can get the idea. So if for some reason the camp spot is more to the side of the truck than to the back, we can have a tarp, a sunscreen to the side. And again, this is the same thing on the other side. We can have that same thing over there. just a different perspective. Again, same problem with this. I may have a pole for the center eventually just to prop this thing up so we get some space here. But this is looking pretty good.